Have you often wondered what goes into the perfume contained in the beautifully sculpted bottle that you've been eyeing? Have you imagined rambling in a strawberry garden when you've dropped in some essence into the batter? In this episode, Monila shares that there is more than just fragrance and flavor that go into the bottle.
So we've seen through the 90s and the 2000s into the 2010s fantastic growth in the emerging markets. So the focus of our whole team for the emerging markets was about let's just go and get market share. What happened, however, in 2011 was we had a cycle of huge increases in commodity prices. And this was also led by, in a way, the huge demand in the emerging markets. And demand was outstripping supply, leading to a spiral in the costs of commodities. Now, this was really unprecedented, and a lot of companies had never seen this. In the industry I work in, it was even more unprecedented. And the industry overall is a very profitable industry. Therefore, people never really thought about, what's the margin that I'm making on my product. So when one gets hit with something like this, to get people to change and think about the new business that I'm bringing in, is it profitable? Is it accretive to the bottom line, or am I eroding the bottom line? There's a huge increase in cost. How do I pass that on to the customer, because we cannot absorb all of that cost? Is a huge change in mindset. Because people were saying our business is all about winning new business, working with our customers. Customer relationships are very important. And when we start talking about price increases, about passing on some of these costs to the customers, we're going to have challenges with the customers. So it was not just about how do we pass these increases on to customers, but a concern that people had and a fear that they had of losing the customer relationships that they had built up over a long period of time. Also, people still felt that we are a profitable company. So, how is it going to matter if we just absorb it over a period of time? And what real impact are these increase in costs having on our bottom line? So the way I went about managing this was firstly to get people to see what the impact of the costs was doing to the bottom line and to each of their businesses, which really helped them to drill this down from something which was more at a corporate or a divisional level or a regional level into what does this mean for my business. The process was also about building more ownership of the results of their business. And once they saw what the impact was on their own business, it was about saying, hey, this is your business. So you come back with solutions on what needs to be done. So the second piece is about letting people make the change themselves in their own way towards the end objective that you want to achieve. And it's about respect, it's about ownership. And when you give people the opportunity, people can surprise you. So if we had a specific plan in terms of going about this versus letting people come back with their plan, it's difficult to digest for a lot of people. And in fact, even from my own internal team, I had a bit of resistance saying that this is not the way to go ahead. We will have challenges. We will not be able to do what needs to be done in time. But I stayed with that, with the conviction that, people are all good people. At the end of the day, when you show them what the problem is and let them do something about it, they will start the change themselves. They will own the change, and that's the best kind of change. And then their teams will own the change. So any change process, as you know, is not an easy process, and you will always have challenges. We had a few people who were early adopters of the process, and there were some who were struggling with the process. So there were various ways that I used basically to get everybody on board, and one of those was some of the early adopters who were successful. I got them to share their stories in terms of, what was the challenge, how did they go about that process, and what was the end result that they achieved. And this tended to build confidence with some of those who were still sort of waiting in the wings to see what happens. And so they started learning from their colleagues themselves, and sharing of those success stories really helped to drive the change. We had people who adopted the change very quickly, went on and got on to moving to the new ways of doing things. We had some other people who really were afraid to go into the change, and that was because they did not have the skills to be able to move forward with a change. So we worked with our HR organization to ensure that we identified certain suppliers to be able to bring up those competencies in these people, and those who did not embrace the change and did not implement things that needed to be done, that started having an impact on the bottom line. So it was about going back to them, sharing the information, sharing the data, having the discussions again. So as we started doing that again, and as people started seeing what was happening to their bottom line, because typically it takes a time, everybody has inventories. So till the inventory that you have goes out of the system, you will not start seeing the impact on your P&L. But once they started seeing the impact on the P&L, people really woke up, and I feel really great to see how the team embraced it. And it's become a way of life now to look at your business on a regular basis, see what are the challenges that are impacting us. And I must say that having implemented SAP a few years back, we have the transparency in our systems to be able to do that, which maybe 5 years back we would not have been able to do with the legacy systems that we had in place. So that's really, really fulfilling to me. And I think during the whole process, staying with the team and saying that don't be afraid, and we are all in this together to drive the change, makes a very, very big difference, because people are also afraid of change. So when you reassure them that we are going to work through this together, the willingness to get into the change mode is also pretty high.